Reheating leftovers is one of the most common habits in any kitchen. It saves time, reduces waste, and feels like the practical, responsible thing to do. But with 5 specific foods, reheating does something that most people are never told about. It triggers chemical and biological changes inside the food that put real measurable stress on one of the most vulnerable organs in your body, your pancreas. And because the pancreas never sends you a pain signal while damage is quietly building, most people have no idea this is happening until it has been happening for years. Your pancreas does 2 jobs that keep you alive. It produces digestive enzymes that break down everything you eat, and it regulates your blood sugar by releasing insulin. It works around the clock, completely silently. When it is under repeated chemical stress from the food you eat, it does not hurt. It does not swell. It does not send you a warning. That silence is the danger. Pancreatic cancer has a 5-year survival rate of under 12%, and the main reason that number is so low is that by the time most people feel something wrong and go to a doctor, the cancer has already spread. Prevention is not a backup plan with pancreatic cancer. Prevention is the only plan that actually works. So let's go through all 5 foods, exactly what happens chemically when you reheat them, and what you can do instead starting tonight. The first food is anything that was fried in oil. French fries, fried chicken, spring rolls, anything cooked in vegetable oil the first time around. The oils most commonly used for frying at home, sunflower oil, corn oil, soybean oil, are highly unstable under heat. When you heat them a second time, they go through a process called oxidative breakdown. That breakdown generates a class of toxic compounds called aldehydes. 2 of the most dangerous ones are 4-hydroxynonenal and melandialdehyde. You do not need to memorize those names. What you do need to understand is what they do inside your body. When you eat food loaded with these aldehyde compounds, your body launches an inflammatory response to try to contain the damage. The free radicals released from reheated oil act like sparks landing on healthy cells, damaging the DNA inside them, the code that tells each cell how to grow, when to stop, and when to die normally. When that code is disrupted enough times, cells can begin multiplying in ways they should not. Your pancreas is one of the organs most vulnerable to this specific type of repeated chemical stress. If you are reheating fried food multiple times a week, your body is being asked to run that inflammatory response over and over again, and a pancreas that is chronically inflamed cannot do its precision work effectively. The fix is simple and it works. Never reheat fried food in oil. Is not fresh oil, not the same oil. Use a dry oven at 180 degrees Celsius or an air fryer. Dry heat brings back the texture without generating a single drop of additional aldehyde damage. And when it comes to frying oil itself, treat it as single use. Fry with it today and discard it today. Reusing frying oil multiplies the aldehyde load in your food before you have even started reheating anything. The second food is cooked leafy greens, spinach, kale, chard, arugula, and similar vegetables. This one surprises a lot of people because leafy greens are genuinely one of the healthiest foods you can eat. Fresh, they are excellent. The problem is specific to what happens after they are cooked and then reheated. All leafy greens contain naturally occurring compounds called nitrates. Fresh, those nitrates are completely harmless. But once you cook these vegetables and let them sit, or even in the refrigerator, bacteria naturally present in the food begin converting those harmless nitrates into nitrites. When you then apply heat a second time, those nitrites react with amino acids in the food and form a class of compounds called nitrosamines. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies nitrosamines as probable human carcinogens. More specifically, they are genotoxic, meaning they enter the nucleus of your cells and damage your DNA directly from within the genetic machinery itself. This is not surface-level irritation. It is damage to the blueprint your body uses to build and repair everything. Once nitrosamines enter your bloodstream after reheated spinach or kale, they circulate to every organ your blood reaches. Your pancreas is called into the detoxification effort repeatedly, and week after week of this exposure keeps it operating under chronic biochemical stress. Each additional reheating cycle increases nitrosamine formation, and that is not a figure of speech, it is the actual chemistry. The practical solution is straightforward. Eat your cooked greens cold. Cold cooked spinach added to a grain bowl, tossed into a salad, or folded into a wrap keeps all the nutritional value intact and produces 0 nitrosamines because there is no second heat applied. If you prefer them warm, cook only what you are going to eat at that meal. Batch cooking leafy greens for the week and reheating daily is the specific habit that causes the problem. The third food is cooked rice, and this one carries a biological risk that cannot be detected by smell, taste, or appearance. A patient named Harold came in a few years ago with recurring digestive problems he had been brushing off for months, bloating, fatigue after meals, low-grade stomach discomfort. When we traced his habits, the common thread was a large pot of rice he cooked every Sunday and reheated portions of every day that week. His case is not unusual. Millions of households do exactly the same thing. Raw rice from any supermarket in the world naturally contains a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. Cooking kills the active bacteria, but it does not kill the spores. Spores are hardened biological survival structures that certain bacteria produce specifically to survive conditions that would normally destroy them. Boiling water cannot destroy them. Normal cooking temperatures cannot touch them. They sit dormant inside your perfectly cooked rice, completely invisible, completely undetectable by any of your senses. The moment the rice begins to cool after cooking and the temperature drops into the range between roughly 10 and 55 degrees Celsius, which is exactly the temperature of your kitchen counter as rice cools, those spores activate. The bacteria multiply. And as they multiply, they produce toxins. Here is the critical detail. One of those toxins is heat stable. When you microwave that rice the next day, you kill the live bacteria. But the toxin that was already produced while the bacteria were multiplying is completely unaffected by your microwave. It survives reheating fully intact and enters your body in working order. Repeated exposure to these toxins, even at levels too low to cause dramatic food poisoning, creates chronic low-grade inflammation throughout your gut. And science has clearly mapped what researchers call the gut-pancreas axis. Your gut and your pancreas share blood supply, lymphatic drainage, and inflammatory signaling pathways. Chronic gut inflammation sends those inflammatory signals directly to the pancreas, consistently and without exception. Harold made 2 changes. He started cooling his rice quickly after cooking and eating it within 24 hours. His symptoms resolved within 3 weeks. The rules for safe rice are not complicated. Cool cooked rice within 1 hour of cooking by spreading it out wide and shallow. More surface area means faster cooling and less time for spores to activate. Refrigerate it promptly. Eat it within 24 hours. When you reheat it, heat it all the way through until it is steaming hot throughout and eat all of it at that meal. Do not reheat rice a second time and do not put it back in the fridge after it has already been reheated once. The 4th food is reheated chicken, and the danger here comes from a specific feature of microwave heating that creates invisible hazards inside food that looks perfectly safe from the outside. A microwave does not heat food the way an oven does. It works by exciting water molecules inside the food to generate heat from within. But different parts of the same piece of chicken have different water content, different density, and different fat distribution. Some sections reach temperatures high enough to kill bacteria. Other sections, just centimeters away, may stay at the precise temperature range where bacteria not only survive, but actively multiply. These are called cold spots. You cannot see them. You cannot detect them by touching the outside of the chicken. The exterior can feel scorching hot while a section in the center is sitting at a temperature that bacteria prefer. The 2 bacteria that make this specifically dangerous with chicken are Salmonella and Campylobacter. Both are present in raw poultry at high rates. Proper initial cooking eliminates them, but recontamination after cooking is entirely possible. On hands, on cutting surfaces, on utensils, and cold spots in microwave reheated chicken are warm, moist, protein-rich environments that function as incubators rather than as killing zones. A salmonella infection is not a minor inconvenience. It is a full systemic event involving high fever, severe cramping, vomiting, and your entire immune system mobilized into emergency response. And while that is happening, your pancreas is not sitting on the sidelines. It is pulled directly into the inflammatory cascade every time. What concerns me more than the dramatic cases, though, is repeated low-level exposure. Small doses, too low to knock you completely down, but consistent enough to keep your gut in a state of chronic low-grade inflammation. Those are the exposures that accumulate quietly over years. The fix is to use your oven. Heat chicken at 175 degrees Celsius, covered tightly with foil, for 15 to 20 minutes. The moist, trapped heat reaches every part uniformly and eliminates cold spots entirely. If you need to use a microwave, cut the chicken into small uniform pieces first. Use medium power rather than maximum. Stop halfway through to rearrange the pieces and let it rest covered for 2 full minutes after heating before you eat. Alternatively, eat the chicken cold, shredded into a salad, sliced over vegetables. Cold chicken carries none of the cold spot risk and none of the repeated inflammatory exposure. The 5th food is cooked potatoes, and this one is worth paying careful attention to because it involves not 1, but 2 completely separate chemical dangers happening at the same time. Two different processes stressing your pancreas from two different directions with every reheated serving. The first danger is a compound called acrylamide. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen. It forms when starchy foods are exposed to temperatures above 120 degrees Celsius, and that golden, crispy surface you love on a roasted or pan-fried potato is the visual sign that acrylamide formation has occurred. Here is what makes reheated potatoes specifically more concerning than freshly cooked ones. When a potato is cooked once and then refrigerated, its surface dries out and sugars and amino acids concentrate at that dry surface. When you apply high heat a second time, the chemical conditions for acrylamide formation are more favorable than they were during the first cooking. You may actually be getting a higher carcinogen load from your reheated potatoes than from the original meal, particularly if you are crisping them up in oil, which stacks the aldehyde danger from food 1 directly on top of the acrylamide danger from food 5. The second danger works through a completely different mechanism and involves your pancreatic beta cells, the specific cells that produce insulin. When potatoes are cooked and then cooled completely in the refrigerator, part of the regular starch inside undergoes a structural change and converts into something called resistant starch. Resistant starch is genuinely beneficial. It slows glucose absorption, moderates your blood sugar response, and feeds healthy gut bacteria. A cold-cooked potato is metabolically a meaningfully different food than a hot one. The moment you reheat that potato at high heat, that resistant starch converts back into regular, rapidly digested starch. The beneficial transformation that happened during cooling is undone in about 90 seconds in your microwave. What would have been a moderate, gradual blood sugar response becomes a sharp spike. And the organ that responds to that spike is your pancreas, specifically those beta cells, forced into a large, urgent insulin release. Once or twice, that is completely normal and manageable. But 3 times a week, every week for years, those beta cells are being driven into repeated emergency production events. They become less responsive over time. They degrade. Progressive beta cell exhaustion is a documented pathway toward the chronic conditions that precede pancreatic cancer. 2 separate attacks every single time you reheat potatoes. The practical solution is one of the easiest on this list. Eat your cooked potatoes cold whenever you can. Cold potato salad made with good olive oil, a little apple cider vinegar, and fresh herbs is genuinely delicious, and it preserves all the resistant starch while producing no additional acrylamide. If you need them warm, use the lowest heat that just takes the chill off. Warm, not hot. You are trying to preserve as much of that resistant starch conversion as possible while avoiding the high temperatures that drive acrylamide formation. And never refry an already cooked potato. A fresh potato fried once is a completely different chemical event than a cooked, cooled potato fried a second time in fresh oil. Now, a word about where you are right now if you have been doing some or all of these things for years. It is not too late to change the outcome. The human body has a remarkable capacity for recovery when chronic stressors are reduced. Chronic inflammation can come down when the inputs driving it are removed. Your body replaces damaged cells constantly. The conditions described here are not a sentence. They are a pattern, and patterns can be changed. What matters is not changing everything perfectly overnight. What matters is changing the habits that carry the highest risk starting today. When you open your refrigerator tonight, the choices are clear. Fried food, let's reheat it dry in an oven or air fryer, never in oil. Cooked leafy greens, eat them cold or cook only what you need right now. Rice, cool it fast after cooking, refrigerate within the hour, eat it within 24 hours, reheat once only, and eat all of it. Chicken, use the oven covered with foil or eat it cold. Potatoes, cold is best, or use the lowest heat possible and never refry them. These are not difficult changes. They do not require special equipment, expensive ingredients, or hours of extra effort. They require knowing what you now know and applying it consistently. Your pancreas has been working for you in complete silence every single day. It has never asked for anything in return. These small, consistent habit adjustments are one of the most meaningful things you can give it. If this information was useful to you, consider sharing it with someone you care about. A spouse, a sibling, a close friend. Most people doing these things are doing them completely innocently because nobody ever explained the chemistry behind them. And if you want to keep receiving clear, practical health information like this, subscribing to this channel means you will not miss what comes next.